Hello everyone, morning. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you are having a nice morning. The sun is shining here. I don't know if the sun is shining where you are, but we are so grateful to see the sun today. I can't tell you. So you'll be pleased to know this time-saving tips for busy SENCOs presentation isn't very long, so you aren't going to be wasting a lot of your time listening to time-saving tips, because I thought the irony of that would be too much. So you'll be pleased to know that this is quite a short presentation, but there's some really good useful tips actually that took me a long time to learn, sadly, a long time to learn. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So my name is Lucy, and I am an experienced SENCO. I was a SENCO for 10 years and a school leader for 18 years. And I absolutely loved being a SENCO. It was probably one of my favourite jobs that I ever did. I really like problem solving and helping people, and those sorts of things are quite up my street. So being a SENCO was probably one of the happiest times of my career, really. I really enjoyed it. So I'm coming here with my honest opinion about how I helped myself to manage my time management, and also how I helped myself to save myself time, because it's an all-consuming role. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot to do. And the first thing we need to think about is, well, why does it matter? Why is it important that we manage our time? Well, as SENCOs, we have so much to do. You know, we're juggling stuff all the time, from assessments to meetings to paperwork. There's always something else to do. Your list never really stops. And so, but it's really, really important that we do manage our time, because we are responsible for children's learning. We're responsible for the happiness of the families, the happiness of the staff around us, and the happiness of us. So it's really, really important that we manage our time. You know, not only does it impact on the children's learning, but it impacts on our work-life balance. So this is probably your most important masterclass of the year. This one hopefully will stay with you for a long time. So get your pen and paper ready, because there's going to be some good points. So the first thing we need to think about is streamlining our processes. So before term would start, or before the week would start, or before the day would start, I would always look at what's coming up. How can I make my week, my year, my term smoother, easier, less stressful? So the first thing we're going to look at is streamlining all of our processes that we have. And a lot of them are quite easy to do that. It might take a little time, but it's quite easy to do. The first thing is, look at your digital files. So it might be that you've inherited some send files from a previous SENCO. Maybe you've inherited lots of send files from previous SENCOs, and your digital files are all over the place. They've got different names on, they're in different places. Different members of staff do different things. How you coordinate with all the members of staff digitally might be different for each individual. You might have cupboards full of different files. Have a look at all of your filing system and see if you can smooth it out. How can you make it easier to find your stuff, easier to locate what you need to locate, and easier to communicate what you need to communicate quickly? I always think of it as almost, imagine I've got 1 minute to do a job. Am I going to be able to find that thing if I only have 1 minute to do that job next time? So when you're storing your files, when you're saving your information, consider the names that you're going to put down so that you can find it again quickly. If anybody's got any questions, by the way, please ask. I'm happy to help. The next one you may or may not know about is Google Chrome. I've just done an update, so I thought I'd share this with you, because actually it would really help. So for those of you who don't know, in February last month, Google Chrome announced an update. You can now group your tabs together on your home screen so that you can find things a lot quicker. So it might be you've got EHCP tabs, you might have CPOMs tabs or parents communication systems tabs. All of your tabs can be saved, so you can go back to them and find them a lot quicker. So it's a lot nicer, and you can even color code them too. I like that. I like a color code system. This next suggestion is a really good hack. So a lot of the time we're writing the same response. So when you send an email, most of the emails are, I need help with a child with dyslexia, or I need help with a child with, ASD, or not coming into school, those sorts of things. A lot of the time, a lot of the information we would share would be the same. So there are things that we can do to help us preempt that situation. So it might be that you can type an email response to a common issue, and then it's ready to go, and all you've got to do is cut and paste it into your email response and personalize it. Obviously, don't send the blanket email. You do need to personalize it to your children, but a lot of the information would stay the same. So for example, here is a guide about dyslexia for a parent. So, and I attach it here, that kind of thing. It might be that you have an IEP already written for a child with ASD, with a lot of common issues on that most children will have. May not, but there may be some commonalities through that you can bring through to help you save time in your paperwork. Obviously, these things do need to be personalized. I'm not saying we blanket spam people with the same stuff, but there's a lot of time-saving tips to be had for those things. So that's a good hack to look at. What can I already prepare for myself, going back to my start of my day, start of my week, start of my year, start of my term? What am I going to need? Which children have I got coming through? What are their needs? What would make my life easier to have ready for them before they get there? And some templates ready to go might be those sorts of things that you prepare. Now, this is an old one, but a good one. The Eisenhower technique. I'm sure most of you have heard of this. But I bet a lot of us don't do it. I know I'm guilty of that sometimes. When we are so overwhelmed and our list is completely bonkers and we just can't see the wood for the trees, put it on some post-it notes or draw a grid in your book and write down, so what's urgent and important, what's important but not urgent, and what's not urgent and not important. And do the Eisenhower technique and see what's your priority, what needs to be done, what needs to be done now, what needs to be done straight away. And it's amazing how what you think has all got to be done now, suddenly it doesn't have to be done now. You can put some to the side and do them later. So that's a really good technique that I think we could all do with reminding every now and then, just to kind of go back to. The other one is time blocking. It's one of my favourite ones, and I actually use my planner to do that in my diary. So the planners have time allocations. You probably can't see my screen, but they have time allocations for each day for that reason, because I'm a time blocker. I like to think of my day and think, right, well, I'm starting at this time, I'm going to finish at that time, I've got these appointments in at those times, and these are the jobs I need to do during the day. So I'm going to write those jobs in. And when I've done today, I'm going to do tomorrow, and then I'm going to do Wednesday, and then I'm going to do Thursday, and then I'm going to do Friday. And so my whole week is planned for tasks and appointments. And I was speaking to somebody the other day who gave us a good trick, and she said, also plan for some quiet time in case something happens. So then I know what I can manage in my week and look after my well-being. Because going back to what we said at the beginning, it's really important for our well-being that we look after our time for ourselves as much as anything else. So I do love to time block. So if you haven't tried time blocking before, I really recommend it. The next one's tricky. Everybody finds this hard. But is there somebody that you can ask for help? It's a really, really hard thing to do because everybody in school is so busy. But, you know, it's really important that we do delegate where possible. If you're a SENCO and you've only got half a day out of school and you have a lot of children on the SEND register, you are going to need to ask for help. There's no doubt about it. You know, one thing you can do is spend time training people, showing people how to do something. So it could be that you don't have to write all of the IEPs, but your teachers do, and you show them how to do that in a staff meeting. It could be that you have somebody who can help you fill in the EHCP application, but you show them how to do it first. You know, those sort of half hours here and there, showing people how to help you would probably help you in an enormous way going through the rest of the year. And a lot of people really enjoy helping out and doing those things. They're learning new stuff, they're having a go, and they're helping and supporting. So it's not always a negative experience delegating to others. Sometimes it's a really positive one, and they bring other ideas to the table and contribute their own thoughts and suggestions too. So it becomes a much better way of working when you're working together as a team. So don't be afraid to ask for help where you can. The next slide talks about using technology. Again, ask for questions if you've got anything. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help. I used CPOMs when I was at school. So I'm familiar with CPOMs, which is why I talk about it a lot. And I used CPOMs to organise my SEND files. So if an educational psychologist had come in for the day, or a speech and language therapist had been in to see a child, or a child had been to an appointment, those emails with the attachments would all be saved into CPOMs. And then whilst I'm saving it into CPOMs in the child's file, CPOMs automatically spoke to the teachers, sent a message to the teachers and those who looked after those children to alert them to the new documents that had come through. I would then use that system to generate my reports. So all I would do is print out a chronology and a report of that child, so that if anybody needed to see a case study, I could quickly generate that very easily. It was a lot better than having paper files, because I used to do those a long time ago. CPOMs is a lot more secure and a lot quicker. You can talk to teachers without disturbing them. You can send them the information via the system instead of, you know, spending time going down and talking to them. So if your time is really tight, at least you know that the teachers have been told that there's been an update. So I'm sure there's other technologies out there other than CPOMs, but I use CPOMs as an example because it's what I'm familiar with. And another thing that you can use, which is really helpful, is something called Google Tasks. I use Google because I feel like a lot of us have got it. Google Tasks, I'm sure Microsoft has something similar. It's a really helpful thing to have, and I access Google Tasks through my Google Calendar. So I log into my calendar as normal, and there's a little toggle button here, calendar or tasks, and you can go into tasks and you can add a task. You can ask it to put a deadline, and then once you've put your deadline, it will show up on your calendar. So again, it's another way of time booking, but digitally, if you prefer to do rather than use a planner. So it's a really helpful tool. I really like Google Tasks, and you can color code them, so it's very exciting. And then another good top tip is to use AI. Now, obviously, we've got to be careful, especially SENCOs have to be careful with using AI for GDPR reasons. So we cannot and must not put any children's sensitive information in, their name, their date of birth. All of that information must stay anonymized. But you can use ChatGPT to help you formulate an answer to an email or create a document, those sorts of things. It is helpful to start with. Another really good one, which you may not have heard of, which is why I've got it on the screen here, is the Google LM Notebook. Again, I'm using Google because I feel like a lot of us have got it. The Google LM notebook is really helpful. So you can put in a document from a DFE, say, for example, the SEND code of practice is the example I've used here. And it will generate an audio overview. So you can see on my right here, I'd press generate the overview. It hadn't quite generated the conversation, but you get the gist. It will then tell you a summary of that document. So one of the things that we find really hard as SENCOs is keeping up to date with all of the latest information. This is a really nice way of doing just that, without having to spend hours and hours and hours sifting through and finding stuff and looking things up. You can then ask the LM notebook to a question about the document, and it will tell you the answer. So it's a really helpful top tip if you haven't seen the notebook before. It's a really good AI system. Now, with all the things we've got to do, it's easy to get lost in what's important. And the important thing is, are the children learning? Are they learning and are they happy at school? They're your priorities. So look at your list. And when you look at your week and your year and your term, think about children's learning and children's happiness, because that's your important stuff. What can you do that's a quick wins? What can you do to streamline the processes for both the children, the families, and the teachers? What would make it easier for everybody and yourself? That's your priority going through, and it should really be your golden thread throughout the year. That's what you're going to be focusing on. Meetings. We all know that meetings take a long time, and a lot of the time that we spend as a SENCO is in a meeting. So think of your month, your year, your week. You're going to have a lot of meetings to go through. So how are you going to make all of those easy? How are you going to make all of those less stressful? How are you going to make it so that after the meeting you can find that information quicker? How are you going to be very clear on the action points so that those action points get done? So look at how I know it sounds simple, but it makes a big difference. Look at how you conduct those meetings. Do you have a clear agenda? Not a long agenda, a short one, a short, clear agenda. Do you have a consistent way of taking those minutes? So, for example, if it's online, you can use an AI tool now to transcribe those things. If it's not online, you could probably use a planner like our SENCO planner with all your meeting notes in. How are you going to record them? Use the same format every single time, and make sure that you then share those minutes with the people that came, so that everybody knows what the actions are and that we all stick to them and get them done. And when you come up with actions, consider how are you going to do those actions? Are they actually achievable? Because if they're not the right actions. So when you're thinking about those actions and you're talking about them, go back to your week, your plan, your month, your year, your planner, and think, right, there's tasks I need to do. Am I going to delegate them, or am I going to do them myself? And if I'm going to do it myself, where am I going to put them in my diary? And if you're able to, plan them in your diary at that point. But the meetings are actually quite key and quite crucial to managing your time, because they can take up a lot of time. One of my favorite things to do is say, right, we've got half an hour. Let's see how much we can talk about in half an hour. Set a time limit before you start. Another good idea is effective communication. So a lot of our time we are worrying about or dealing with parents who are worried about their children. And a lot of time can be wasted, if you like, resolving issues that perhaps could have been preempted. So perhaps all the way through the term, can you connect regularly with parents? Can you talk to them about, how's it going? How is things getting on? Do you need anything? Does the child need anything? Talk to the child. How are you getting on? How are you finding learning at the moment? Have those regular communications in order to preempt any issues that may come up. And that will save you time down the lane, because what you don't want is an unhappy child or an unhappy parent and a situation that's now much bigger because you haven't had that regular contact. So try to kind of keep on top of things. So here's a quick summary of what we've talked about. So we've got overwhelming paperwork, you know, try and use some software to help you. Your time-consuming meetings, you know, implement clear agendas, set time limits, repetitive report writing. Do you remember we talked about using templates, speed up the documentation, managing multiple agencies? I didn't mention that, but you get the gist. So, you know, see if you can use a piece of software tool such as CPOMs to send files securely to different people. And constant staff queries, that's another one that can take up your time. You know, worried teachers quite rightly come in to ask you stuff. Is there anything you can do to preempt them and prevent them feeling worried? You know, there's a lot we can do to help share information, maybe a little bit of staff meeting training time to train people so they know what to do, so they don't get into that situation where they are now worried and don't know how to handle things. There's a lot of preempting to do. So that's more or less it. So the key takeaways of the session are, my biggest thing is to prepare yourself. So be organized. Start from the beginning of the week, the beginning of the year, the beginning of the term, beginning of the month. What are you going to get your way? What's going to be sent your way during that time? What are going to be the things that you're going to do a lot of? Get those things ready. That's why the planner has the pre-populated pages in, so such as the impact of send provision. All of those sorts of things pre-populate your pages, your digital files, your diary, your meeting notes. Get them all set up, because there is going to be time when you've only got 30 seconds and you're going to need to do something. That's why the planner is really helpful, because sometimes you haven't actually got time to log into your computer and turn it on and then type whatever it is that you're wanting to think. You know, the planner's all ready to go. You can go straight to that. Time blocking, again, really helpful technique. You know, I couldn't manage my week without it. You can either do that in a paper planner or a digital planner, use Google Tasks. However you feel best, really recommend it. Try to work smarter rather than harder. So how can we help you? So on our website, we have got all of the downloadable templates that you will need. So you can head over to HeadteacherChat.com. We've just put an inclusion checklist up there, which is in line with the latest Ofsted handbook. Obviously the SENCO planners, which you know about. But we also have a really nice supportive community of leaders, and there's a few SENCOs on there, which is really nice. So if you are not a community member already and you'd like to join us, please do get in touch, because I will help you to join the community. It is free unless you want to download all of the resources, and then obviously you need to buy the premium membership. But to be a part of the community, meet other SENCOs, chat with other SENCOs, chat with us. There are also free resources and free masterclasses like this one, which you can tune into. And if you want to get in touch with me, this is how you can do so. You can contact me on HeadteacherChat. You can email me info@headteacherchat.com, or you can visit the website HeadteacherChat.com. I hope today has been really helpful. If you've got any questions at any point, please do get in touch, as I will be very happy to help. And I'm sure there's things I've missed that you guys think of really good ideas for. So if you've got any great tips that you'd like to share, please do, and I'll add them to the comments underneath, and then we can help more people. Let's help each other. That's what it's all about. Anyway, have a good day. Thanks, everyone.